Well, hello. Okay, I have done like a million test shots with this new camera and this new lighting. I'm sure it's not perfect, but I hope it's good enough. I just don't have like a viewfinder to look at while I'm actually recording. So I have this like mirror back there that I can kind of see my camera in. So I don't know, hopefully I'm focused and hopefully this looks good. If you guys know, I got a new camera, so I'm still trying to mess with all the settings and the lighting and everything like that. So going forward, hopefully each video will get a little bit better. But like I've said before, I'm still just trying to get used to all of that. And so hopefully this doesn't look terrible, and yeah, I hope that you can forgive me if it does, but hopefully it's at least usable. And like I said, hopefully just things improve as time goes on, as I learn about this camera and just lighting and different things like that. But I did want to jump on here today. I feel like I haven't recorded in like forever, so I'm like, how do I do this? But I wanted to come on here today with a new Frightful Fridays for you. It's been quite a while since I've done a Frightful Fridays video, and my apologies for that. I know I posted just a really short clip recently, just kind of telling you about how I've had COVID and just all these different things were going on. So it's just been a while since I've been able to record, edit, and upload anything. And so I'm really excited to get back into that today with you guys. And what better way to get back into it than with a Frightful Fridays video. So yes, we're gonna just jump on into it. If you don't know what Frightful Fridays is, it's just a series I do here on my channel where we kind of just pick a topic that could be folklore or paranormal or just something spooky in general. Oftentimes the topic is thought to not exist or just not be real or be a myth or a legend or somewhere in between in the realm of things not being real. So we just pick a topic every week, or I pick the topic every week, and but I'm of course always open to your guys' suggestions like I say all the time. But anyway, we have a topic and we discuss it. We kind of discuss the origin, maybe the history behind it, or how it came to be, and then it's totally up to you guys whether you believe in it or not. It's just kind of fun to kind of think outside the box and kind of deep dive into some things that may or may not actually be out there in this world, or at least things that were previously thought to just totally not exist, and now people are kind of like, the possibilities are endless. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna get into all of that today, and if you can't tell by the title, today we are going to be discussing the elevator game. I've heard about this game for quite some time now, and it's just another one of those really spooky games. So without any further ado, we're gonna discuss it, we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna learn about the elevator game, or the elevator to another world, as it's also called. So yeah, if you're interested in that, then just keep on watching, and we're gonna get on into it, and I'm gonna stop rambling now because wow, I'm already out of breath and the video hasn't even started. So let's go. Oh, and also I just need to give a little disclaimer. I am talking about this is all for fun and giggles, but I do not recommend doing this. I do not recommend messing with elevators. I do not recommend actually anyone doing this. I do not recommend anybody going and making themselves be put in an unsafe situation in an elevator or putting other people in harm's way. I'm not recommending that you do this game. I just need to give that disclaimer. It's fun to learn about, it's very interesting to discuss, but in reality, I would never do this. I don't want to do this. I have no desire to do this, and I recommend the same to you, to not do this. I don't want anybody going out there and getting hurt because they saw this video and then wanted to attempt it and then something horrible happens. So this is purely informational. This is purely for educational purposes, if you could say that, just something fun to discuss and talk about, but please do not attempt this on your own, and just please don't put yourself in danger ever trying any of the things that we're ever discussing. So I just want to give that disclaimer. I'm sure you all are smart enough to know that, but just in case, I don't want anybody doing this and hurting themselves or hurting someone else. Okay, so we are discussing, like I said, the elevator game today, the elevator to another world, the other world game. I've heard this called several different things. And when I say like, oh, those spooky sleepover games, I don't necessarily mean that you play them at sleepovers, maybe you do, but just those, you know, fun, spooky games that you hear growing up or whatever. The elevator games has been one of those for a lot of people, so I thought it would be really interesting to talk about. Oh my gosh, I'm fidgeting so much. So basically, before we get started, I'm going to break down this whole game for you, all the rules, all the possibilities, but to kind of give you just a brief overview, a little synopsis. I have seen a couple different and varying rules, but overall, through the research I've done, most of the rules have remained pretty consistent, so I'm going to try to just speak on the most popular rules and things that I have heard, but if you do your own research on this, you might find a few variations of this game. Like I said though, most of them are very, very similar. So A brief synopsis of this game is basically that you get on an elevator by yourself alone, and you push a sequence of buttons, and first you're supposed to see a woman get on the elevator, and we will discuss her, and then eventually you are supposed to actually be taken to another world by this elevator if you do this ritual correctly, if you do this game right, and if you push the right buttons in the right sequence. The elevator game has not been a game for very long. I think what I saw on the internet mostly was that a lot of people believe it originated in Korea. The most popular that I saw was Korea, but I also saw that it came from Japan and other different areas like that. So not exactly 100% sure where this game originated. The way you want to start off this game is that you want to be in a building. Find a building. It's not recommended to use a building that you live in. If you live in an apartment complex or something like that, the building that you find has to have at least 10 floors, and basement floors and other like storage floors don't count. There need to be at least 10 floors in the building, if not more, and you enter an elevator alone, and then you begin this game. Now, when you start, you are supposed to enter the elevator, and throughout the course of the game, if any other person actually gets on the elevator with you, the game is kind of null and void, and you have to start over from square one once that person exits the elevator. So it's a very heavy emphasis on being alone, obviously, and you do have to start over. Many people attempt this and fail at this multiple times, they've said, before they've actually been able to do it, but that is just another rule. There are lots of rules in this game. When you begin the game, like I said, you need to be completely alone, and when you call the elevator, which is how you begin the game, you need to make sure that you push the up button only. If there is a down button, you do not want to push it. You need to start on the ground floor of the building that you're in. Now, in order to gain access, well, in order to see this woman that you're supposed to see in this game, and then eventually gain access into this other world, you have to first enter the elevator, like I said, and then you have to push a series of floor numbers in order to begin the ritual. You would push the 4th floor button. When you get to the 4th floor, though, you do not get off. From there, you would push the 2nd floor button. Again, when you get to the 2nd floor, you do not get off. When you're at the 2nd floor, you then push the 6th floor button. Once again, you do not get off. When you get to the 6th floor, you push the 2nd floor button again and return there. Now, after this, you need to push the 10th floor button, go up to the 10th floor. Again, you're not getting off during all of this. And then finally, you would hit the 5th floor button and you would return to the 5th floor. Now, once you did this sequence correctly, again, not getting off the elevator and making sure no one else gets on, once you did this whole sequence of floors correctly, once you get to that 5th floor and the door opens, this is where people report encountering this woman. Now, this woman is said to be very scary, very spooky, and seeming very almost otherworldly. It has been said that when this woman enters the elevator, the rider and the one performing the ritual immediately becomes frightened, freaked out, very nervous. The woman oftentimes seems very frightening to the player. So that is a very intense part of the game that will begin to happen once you push the sequence of floor buttons correctly. So the woman enters the elevator. Now, when she does, or just when the doors open, it is said that you are not supposed to look at this woman at all. You're not supposed to make eye contact with her. You are basically not even supposed to acknowledge that she even exists or is in the elevator with you or has entered or anything. Don't look at her, don't touch her, don't talk to her, don't interact with her. She might try to interact with you. She might try to get you to go somewhere with her. She might just try to have a conversation with you. She might end up being very angry and very creepy and try to creep you out. But it is said that the rules of this game are to not engage with this woman at all. So what happens if you do engage with this woman? That was my first question when reading this. Before we even got to the otherworldly thing, I'm like, well, what if somebody does talk to this woman? Or what if, like, it's an accident or something? The overwhelming majority of what I found was that this woman would then claim you as her own or keep you as her own if you are to break that rule and engage with her in some way, engage with her antagonizing you, or just speak to her or acknowledge her presence. It is said that this woman will keep you as her own. Now, in some accounts, I've heard that this means that this woman then haunts the person that did this ritual for an indefinite amount of time. I've heard that this woman kind of can also just alter your life and make it genuinely terrible. I've seen some accounts where People felt like they were stuck in this other world because they made eye contact with this woman. So there's all different accounts of kind of what can happen if you do break that rule. Just make sure that does not happen. But the woman is supposed to enter the elevator once you get on that 5th floor. And then from there, you are then supposed to push the button for the 1st floor. And this is where one of two things could happen, and where the player of this ritual would then know if they have done this correctly or not. So when you push that button to the 1st floor, if the elevator descends to the 1st floor, this means that the ritual has actually failed. So even after you go through this whole process of pushing the sequences of floors, and then the woman gets on, you push the 1st floor button. If it starts descending, it means the ritual has failed. It could be something you did, it could be nothing, but at that point it is said that you need to follow or let the elevator take you to the 1st floor, and then once the doors open, you need to take a very serious look at your surroundings and make sure that you're in the right reality, the right world. And then you need to exit the elevator, go straight home, and you can try the ritual another time. If it starts descending, it ultimately means that the ritual has failed and you'll need to try again. But if you push the 1st floor button and it starts ascending, the elevator starts ascending to the 10th floor, then you know that you've done the ritual right and you're about to enter another world. And that is so freaky. Now, when this elevator starts ascending, you will be on the 5th floor. You have one final chance to cancel the ritual if you do not want to continue. And to do so, you may push any button on the elevator that is not the 10th floor button. So when you're on the 5th floor and the woman enters, and then you push the 1st floor button, but you start ascending, like I said, the ritual then worked. But if you get really freaked out and do not want to continue any further, your last chance to cancel the ritual has to be you pushing a button for another floor before you reach the 9th floor. It is said that if you do not do this, that is ultimately your last chance to cancel, and you are being transported to this other world because you have performed the ritual correctly, and that is the point of the game, obviously, is to get to this other world, right? So if you so choose, you're now on your way to the 10th floor to this other world. So what happens when you get there? What is this other world? What happens to the woman? How do you escape? We're going to get into all that right now. So if you've performed this ritual correctly and you are ascending to the 10th floor and you've chosen not to cancel, once you get there, many people report many different things about this other world. So obviously the point of this game is that you perform this whole ritual correctly, you push this series of buttons, you see the woman, you get to this floor, and the doors open, and basically you're in another world. The overwhelming theme that remains the same with every account is that you are completely alone besides this woman. So when you enter this other world, it is a world that could possibly look very similar to your own world, which is why a lot of people get caught in a pickle while playing this game. But the one thing that remains constant and certain is that you are completely alone. And then from there, you start to kind of notice your reality not being the same reality that you originated from. So the doors open, you're in this other world. Many people report when this happens, they immediately feel the shift in realities, and they immediately feel and know that they're in this other world. But some others actually don't realize it initially. So when you get to this other world, many people report feelings of dizziness, of lightheadedness, of panic, of anxiety, of hopelessness, of almost despair. Some people claim that when they went to this world and the doors opened, it looked exactly like the building they were in, except all of the power was out. So that's very freaky. A lot of other people claim that when they look out the windows, it's not a blue sky or any type of sky. The only thing you see when you look out the windows is actually a burning red cross or a red cross. There's been different variations of that I found, but the overwhelming theme is that when they look outside, they're not seeing their reality outside. They're only seeing this red cross out any windows. Some people go to this world and report not seeing any windows at all and just being in an endless hallway, like maze type thing of this 10th floor. There's many different accounts of people who go to this world, but the majority of them, like I said, are very sinister and creepy, and you just don't feel right in this world at all. And it definitely, from my findings, has spooked a lot of people and been a very terrifying experience, not a fun one. And the themes of this other world tend to be pretty similar, even though they might vary a little bit person to person. Like I said, sometimes the power's on, sometimes the power might be off, but the overwhelming majority have experienced pretty similar things when it comes to this ritual and being transported to this other world. Now, it is worth noting too that once you get to this other world, once those doors open, it is said that the woman that is on there with you will try to stop you from going to the other world. She might antagonize you, she might try talking to you. A variation of lots of different experiences with this woman have been written about in my research, but overall, it seems that the woman really does try to stop you from going to this other world, and it is said that you are still supposed to ignore her. The whole time you're performing this ritual, the whole time you're encountering her, you are supposed to ignore her completely, even when she's telling you to not go to this other world. So again, the same things could happen if you choose not to ignore her that we discussed earlier, but she is still there in case you forgot, and she is trying to stop you from stepping out of the elevator and exploring this other world. Now, you may get out and explore this other world, but it is very heavily warned that you do not ever lose sight of the elevator, because in order to finish this ritual and return back to your reality, it has to be done in the same elevator that you started in. Now, this might seem very easy, but once I tell you what many people claim they've experienced in this other world, it's not as easy as it sounds. So we're gonna get into all of that. I think I've rambled about this old lady for long enough. So once you get there and the lady tries to stop you from getting out of the elevator and going to this other world, you choose to get out. What happens? What is this other world like? What have people claimed to experience? Now, like I said, I discussed that a lot of people feel this overwhelming sense of like dizziness and just like not themselves, and feel very disoriented and very out of sorts when they enter this other realm. A lot of people claim that when they get to this other world, it looks very similar, if not identical, to their real world, except for two differences, which would be the lights being off as well as the cross outside when you look out any window. The majority of people claim that that's what they experienced in this other world, but even some other accounts also report that when you enter this other world, your electronic devices no longer work. So your phone, maybe your computer if you have it, your cameras, anything that you would be able to record with, anything you'd be able to call somebody on or text somebody on, an iPod, anything. Many people claim these devices do not work once they enter this other world. So it is also warned that if you play this game, that you let somebody know what you're doing and where you are, because of this reason. This has been a very highly reported in my research thing that happens when these people go to this other world as well, which in my opinion would be very scary, because like, I don't know, having a phone and knowing I could call somebody if something's wrong always gives me peace of mind, and you know, having the device and it just not working is like so terrifying to me. So make sure you let somebody know. That is what's recommended if you play this game, but I do not recommend that you play it, like I said. And even still, some people say that the experience is different for everyone. So there might be some experiences of this other world that are out there that just people have either not discussed or that they haven't been experienced yet. And then there might be some new accounts in the future of completely different things that this other world has. There's still many other accounts, and there's still new accounts that could be had, because this is not a concrete ritual or thing that happens the same exact way every single time. The experience is a little bit different person per person, or person to person. So there are still some experiences that haven't been had yet, or just people haven't talked about yet. So there still could be many more things out there about what happens to you when you enter this world that we just don't know about. It seems overall that those are kind of the most popular that people have experienced, especially the feeling of not being aware or being disoriented. Those feelings of kind of being out of sorts was a really big one that I found. And like I said, in order to end the ritual, which we're about to get into now, you do have to enter in the same elevator that you exited from in order to get to this new world, or this other world. So when people feel disoriented or they feel like they're in this hallway maze, it becomes more difficult to then find the elevator or get on the same elevator that you just got off of. A lot of people report having difficulties with that. A lot of people also in this other world report getting off the elevator and they can kind of see it in the distance, but it seems like it gets further away as they're running towards it. So again, that makes it really difficult to get on the same elevator. There's been all kinds of accounts of that, just seeming like you're running so hard, kind of like in that dream that I've had a lot, but I'm sure a lot of people have, when you're running so hard towards something and you feel like you're going so fast but you're not getting anywhere, or the object that you're going towards is getting further away, or you're being chased and you're not getting any further away from the thing that's chasing you. That's kind of what people experience in regards to this other world as well. And that makes it very difficult for them to get back on the same elevator that they started on. And that's when you start to see a lot of these problems and a lot of these creepy things that have happened because people have played this game. So it may seem really easy if you don't think about like being disoriented or being dizzy or being confused once you play this ritual and enter the other world. It might seem really easy to get back on that elevator and just end the game and it's all one big haha. And it might be for some people. Some people have reported feeling no dizziness or no disorientation at all, but a lot of people have reported that, and then they said that that made it a lot harder to then find the elevator that they came to the other world on with the woman in it or anything like that. So it becomes a much more of a challenge for them, and I think the ritual and entering this other world is what does that to them. Okay, so now that we've discussed kind of what the ritual is, the woman, what happens in the other world if you do the ritual correctly and you get to the other world, you've experienced all these things. Let's say you played the game, you did everything right, you went to this other world, and now you're ready to come back to your reality. How do you do it? How do you exit this 10th floor alternate reality universe and gain your life back? How do you get back into your reality? How do you know it's the correct reality? There's been a lot of reports of making sure that you're in the correct reality, because apparently this game can really trick you into thinking you are even though you're not. But like I said, how do you know all of this? How do you end the game? Let me tell you. Okay, so there's two different ways, depending on what you have done so far, that will get you back to your reality. The first being if you were successful in the ritual and you went up to the 10th floor and you were in the other world, but you say you did all of that and then you chose not to get off the elevator and you chose not to explore the other world. You simply made it there on the elevator with the woman, and then you got there and you're like, oh, this is not for me. Let me go back. And you never exited the elevator. This is what you would do to get back. So it is said that what you need to do is press the button for the first floor again. And at this point, the elevator should start descending. Now, if it does not, it is recommended that you just start pushing the first floor button a lot of times until it does, the doors do close and you end up descending. And from pretty much all accounts I've seen, that is what it's supposed to do. So it might not close the doors and descend right on that first push, but if you did not exit the elevator at all, you are supposed to just continuously push the first floor button and it will take you back to the first floor. Now, when you arrive at the first floor, you are supposed to first obviously verify that this is your reality and look out some windows, make sure it's a blue sky, make sure that people don't seem a little bit off. But most people report, if they never got off the elevator, that as soon as they descend and get to the first floor, they are back in their reality. And from there, you are just simply supposed to exit the elevator. Do not acknowledge the woman, do not acknowledge anyone. You simply exit the elevator, you exit the building as quick as possible, and you go home. And the ritual has ended that way for you. You're not supposed to look back. You're not supposed to speak to anyone. You're just simply supposed to get out of that building as quick as possible and head straight home. But that is only if you chose not to go into the other world. So now, if you did choose to go into the other world, how do you get back from there? We're gonna find out. So like I said, you're on the 10th floor in the other world. The first thing you need to do in order to get back is to make sure that you get on the same elevator that you started on. It should have the woman in it. Like I said, it is difficult for some people to get back to this elevator, but it has to be the same elevator or you might just be stuck in this other world forever. Just you and the woman, okay? Does not sound fun to me. But you get on there and you make sure it's the correct elevator. And then from there, you push another sequence of floor numbers, which I'm going to read to you now. Now I have on my script and my notes written down over here, so if I keep looking over here, that's why, but I do have a list of what floor numbers and floor buttons you push and in a certain sequence, so I'm going to just read that to you now because it does get a little confusing. So when you enter the elevator, first you press the 4th floor button, And also when you push all these buttons, you do not get off on any of the floors. So you would push the 4th floor button, stay on. When you get there, then you push the 2nd floor button, stay on. And then when you get there, you push the 6th floor, then you would push the 2nd floor again, then you would push the 10th floor button, and then the 5th button, the 5th floor button, and then finally the 1st floor button. So in order, we would have the 4th floor, then the 2nd floor, then the 6th floor, then the 2nd floor, then the 10th floor, then the 5th, and then finally the 1st floor. Sorry, I know that's probably like really confusing, but that's just the best way I can think to explain it. There have been a few reports too that you actually push the same sequence of numbers just backwards. I saw that just a few times, so I thought that I would mention that, but overwhelmingly I saw that you push that sequence of buttons that I just discussed, and then like I said, you would end up pushing the 1st floor. That would be the last button you pushed. Now once you push that 1st floor button, you will again begin ascending to the 10th floor. So it's basically the same sequence that you were pushing to begin the game, you're pushing now again to end it, but the same thing will happen when you're on that 1st floor where you will start then ascending to, or when you're on the 5th floor, I'm sorry, and you push the 1st floor button, you will start ascending to the 10th floor. In order to cancel the game, you will need to, again, push any button besides the 1st or the 10th floor buttons, and you have to push this before you get to the 9th floor. Now, this process, if done correctly, should end the game for you, and your elevator should start descending back down to the 1st floor. It's very emphasized that you have to cancel before you get to the 9th floor. So like I discussed before, to cancel the game before you even get to the other world, it's the same theory now, except you've obviously played the game and you've been to this other world and you want to get back to your reality. But you would do it in the same way as, you know, pushing a button before you get to the 9th floor and making sure that button you push is not the 1st floor or the 10th floor button. And like I said, once this happens, you should then begin descending. Now, like I said, if you did this correctly, you should just go right to the 1st floor, and it is said once again, when you get down there and the doors open, to verify your reality. This is heavily emphasized in all of my research I've done on this. That is very heavily emphasized, that whenever you're exiting the elevator, before you do so, while you're still on the elevator, you have to make sure that you are in the right reality. This is crucial, evidently, to, you know, making sure your life returns to normal. Now, if you get to the 1st floor and you think something's even slightly off, or you just have this knowledge that you're still not in the right reality, there is a way to fix it. It doesn't mean you're stuck in this other world forever. What you are supposed to do, if you have done that whole process right, you canceled it before the 9th floor, you get down there and you're still not in the right reality, it is said that you do not exit the elevator whatsoever, and instead you need to press the button for the 4th floor again and repeat that same sequence of pushing those floor numbers that you did the first time you were trying to cancel the game. And then the same thing is supposed to happen, where you're supposed to end up at the 1st floor again, and once again you are supposed to verify your surroundings, verify you're in the right reality this time, and from there you can end the game. But there have been reports that when people try to exit the game, it has not worked right for them the first try, and I think that's why it's noted in here very heavily that you have to verify your reality before you leave. Some people have to try to cancel the game a few times before they're actually back in the right reality, but eventually, if doing it right, they do always end up back in the right reality, and from there you verify that nothing's off and you're free to exit the elevator. Now, I was very curious as to why you have to make sure and what happens if you don't make sure that you're in the right reality and you exit the elevator anyway, and then you might realize that you're not in the right reality. Like, what would happen? Can you get back on? Can you take yourself back? It is said that it is so important to verify your reality, because if you don't and you just go ahead and exit the elevator and it turns out you're not in the right reality, it is said that you may never get back to your reality. You may never get back to your home again, and it is actually said that you are forced to dwell in this other world forever or indefinitely, just you and that woman. That is why, through what I've researched, it says that you have to make sure you're in the right reality. So I'm not trying to get stuck in any other worlds, and I'm sure you're not either. So that's, I guess, why, through what I found, because I was very curious, like, well, what happens if, you know, you end up in the wrong reality and you leave? Like, is this a terrible thing? Can it be fixed? And it seems that it can't be fixed. So just so you know, make sure you're using extreme caution when, you know, exiting if you choose to play, but I don't recommend playing. Now, I have read some accounts as well that state, now these are I've found fewer of these accounts and fewer of this version of rules, but I thought it would be worth mentioning too that in order to get back to your reality after you've been to the other world, some people say that instead of pushing that sequence of numbers in the same order that you did in the beginning to get to the other world, they actually say to push them in reverse. So I've seen that account as well, but like I said, less frequently. Additionally, there are some accounts of people playing this game, and while they're in the elevator, there's been like reports of these people fainting, passing out, losing consciousness, any of the above. And when that happened, the players have reported waking back up and just being in their home again. But when this happens, when these people faint and then wake up back in their homes, they never completed the ritual, so to speak. They never made it to the 10th floor, to the other world. They report, you know, feeling this lightheadedness or fainting or whatever it might be and waking back up in their homes. It is still said to verify that you were in the right reality, because evidently there has been cases where people have claimed that they've woken up in their home and it hasn't actually been their reality and been their home, and they've had to figure out a way back. So even though they didn't complete the ritual or go to the other world, something about them fainting or losing consciousness and then waking back up, they're not actually in their home. It seems like they're home, it seems like they're in the right world, but there's just slight differences or things are slightly off, and it proves to them that they're actually not, even though it feels like there is. So this woman, what about this woman? People have reported several different experiences with this woman. Sometimes people report this woman appearing and it's actually someone they already know, which is very terrifying. Some people say that if they've looked at this woman, it's led to some really damning and like horrific consequences. Like I said, you're not supposed to acknowledge her, but some people have, either by accident or on purpose, and they have stated that just like tragedies have struck their life afterwards. The woman might not have appeared to them as someone they know, but just horrific and tragic things happened to them because they looked at her, even if they performed the rest of the ritual correctly. A lot of people report like basically being haunted for the rest of their lives and just having awful things happen to them, almost like a bad omen was placed on them or a curse of some sort. So regardless of if you finish the ritual or finish the game, it is still very important that you don't look at her, because even afterwards and after you return to your reality, it is said that still just like horrible things happen to people who make eye contact with her, acknowledge her, look at her, etc. And that is the elevator game, or the elevator to another world game, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, let me know about this one, guys. Like, let me know if you've played this game, how it's turned out for you, if you know someone that's played this game, if you've heard of it before, if you haven't, if you've heard different versions of it. Let me know what you think of it. I thought this was a really fun one, a really interesting one to kind of deep dive into and learn about people's experiences and just different accounts, because basically the only way we can know about this game is just through what people claim have happened to them when they've played it. Just let me know if you've ever done this, what's ever happened, if you have, or if you know somebody who has, or if you've done something similar. Let me know everything in the comments below. Also, please let me know what you want me to discuss next, what you're interested in, if you like this kind of ritualistic, spooky game theme that we've done with like Bloody Mary and now this one, or if you want to learn more about like just some folklore or some mythical creatures or any of the above. Like, if you have any suggestions, just let me know. I'm obviously very open to those. Also, my scary story email is still in my description box, like always. So if you have scary stories that have either happened to you or that you've written, or experiences that you've had or know someone who has had, and you want me to read them or discuss them on this channel, email them to that email and let me know how you want to be credited and everything, and we'll get that going. But yeah, please let me know what you thought of this one, if you liked it, what you want me to talk about next. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this quality